maybe, but you're also sharing your screen. So
Oh,
you're
right.
looking at your slides and
Yeah.
like maybe a small panel. So there's just there's nothing.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. Well, we're live.
It's live. It's
Yeah.
Thursday.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So good morning. Todd and I are here today. We've got Jenna Muri-Rosenthal with us. And you came to us by way of Alex Zirkenbach, who we've had on a couple times, talking all things adaptive. And you, I would certainly consider to be a subject matter expert in your field. So we're super excited to chat with you. This is definitely a topic I can speak for myself that I don't know a tremendous amount in this topic.
We're getting pictures right now. Let's go. Let's go. There it is. Let's go.
Got to get on my media too, you know?
Yeah,
There it is.
absolutely.
Let's make it happen.
Morning, Jess. So let me pull this up because you've got quite a bio, Jenna. Founder and CEO of Fit to Function Recovery. We'll talk about that here in just a couple minutes. Speech language pathologist, certified brain injury specialist, director of operations and seminar staff for the Adaptive Training Academy, where you're the neuro subject matter expert and a CrossFit level 2 trainer.
Let's go.
Welcome. So Jenny, you're
Thank
coming
you.
to us from Boston.
Yeah.
You got tank top on. It looks like it's warmer there than it is where I'm at in Florida right now.
It is not. I just react up the heat.
Okay.
Do not let the tank top fool you.
Yeah.
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 And
but,
Jenny,
like,
you're
I mean,
coming to us from your gym, right? Fit to Function,
Yeah.
your facility. Okay.
Yep. This is my gym.
Tell us
Yep.
a little bit about that. Yeah.
All right. So my bio is a good lead into like the full story, which I'll try to make short because it's not really a short story. But I'm trained as a medical speech and language pathologist and a certified brain injury specialist. And I've spent 15 years working in neuro recovery and rehab for brain injury survivors and acute care. So like you have your stroke, you have your brain injury, and we're there day one at the bedside to kind of see how you may recover. Somewhere along the line, I started doing CrossFit. And then I thought, oh, I want to coach this, started coaching CrossFit, and really quickly identified the gym as a place for people in recovery, right? That there's that functional movement as well as the cognitive, social, language interaction, all the things that we know a traditional gym offers had just so much, just rife with opportunity for folks in survivorship from brain injury. So I started bringing athletes into the gym one at a time. I was like, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing, but you want to try this? Got my adaptive and inclusive.
Sounds like everybody when they start coaching, right?
Right?
I barely
I
know
was
what
like,
I'm
I
doing,
relate
but-
to that. Like, I have no idea
Right.
what I'm doing, but hopefully it'll go well.
There
The
you go.
stakes
Let's
feel
see.
a little bit higher than when I started coaching, but
Yeah. Like I was like, I get movement and I know brains and I know that you have XYZ limitations, so let's put that together. So I started training folks one at a time, and then slowly built the program up. I had 5 folks working with me ahead of COVID. And then COVID obviously kind of shut everything down, and I was working full time in the hospital. And then in the wake of COVID, there was even more opportunity for people who are looking for greater recovery options. So I started working first out of Invictus Boston, and then I was at the Phoenix. And then it was like, whoa, we're training 75 individuals with disabilities one-on-one. We need our own facility. And so we opened ourselves up here 2 years ago, and that's where we're at.
wow.
Does your facility, do you guys only work with adaptive athletes? Is that right?
No, so I sometimes joke like our day job is neuroadaptive training. So we do primarily one-on-ones throughout the day, but once we opened our own facility, it afforded us a lot more opportunity to kind of take that model of modifying, adapting, scaling, and ensuring that I like to describe us as a home for everyone and anyone who doesn't otherwise feel they have a home in a fitness space. So we have, traditional functional fitness classes in the evening, which affords our adaptive one-on-one athletes as they like recover and get to a point where they might feel that they could get to a class. There's now a community waiting for them. And we also have a senior 65 plus fitness program, a prenatal to postpartum moms program, and we have an inclusive kids class for kids with and without disabilities.
Wow. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. Do you like work with the hospital still, and that's how you pull people in, or tell us a little bit about how people find you and start to, I mean, I'm imagining people travel a bit to get to your facility.
Yeah, we have folks that come from all over. I mean, our biggest base is sort of Massachusetts based, but we have folks around New England, around the country. Even I even train some athletes overseas, some who we just do remote training or have come here for sessions or boot camps or whatever. When I started the program, I think we all know that standard medicine and rehab doesn't care as much about fitness as we would like them to.
Yeah.
And so when I started the program, I was sending out emails and whatnot from like my partner's email address. I was like, I work at Mass General Rehab. I've got the in. At least people will see me as a real thing. And I got a lot of like kind of pat on the back, like, oh, that's cute, you do exercise, but not a lot of referrals. And in time, especially as we started to get more folks from the Boston area who just found us, who are looking for more, and that feedback started to happen where physicians and physical therapists and other therapists were seeing, oh wow, like there's a lot of we know people and look at how far they've come. They started to refer. So now people come to us from their OTs, PTs, other therapy programs, other adaptive sport programs, word of mouth, social media. They're coming from everywhere.
I mean, that's super cool. And just like so many things, right? It's like once you get the ball rolling and you have a little bit of a proof of concept and
Yep.
things are happening, then it's just like the referrals start rolling in. So are you still working? Do you still work at the hospital, or is this you've
Just
transitioned to?
as of this year, so as of this year, I'm formally not there anymore. And part of my journey to this was kind of like working both things to that overmaxed capacity where I was working 4 10-hour days in the hospital and then in the gym the rest of the week, and then in time cut that to 3 10s, 2 10s, then just a 1 day a week as needed. But around the time we opened our own facility, beyond just being a program manager, also being a gym owner, facility manager, and everything from like intern janitor to the CEO, was like, I can't
Yep.
do both anymore, and found that I can make a greater impact here. So
Yeah, for sure. For sure. How many people do you have on your staff there
there's
at the
7 of
gym?
us now.
7. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
and hiring. If anyone
and
wants a good job
hiring.
in
Yeah, there you go.
neuroadaptive
Little
fitness, come
plug
find
right
me.
there. And yeah, and that kind of brings me to my next question is what are the qualifications to be a part of your staff, to be a coach there? Is it kind of a
Yeah.
special, like walk us through that a little bit? I just
Ye-
feel like the adaptive, it can be it can be a really intimidating thing for a lot of coaches, and we'll get there in a few minutes on how we can start to implement that into the gyms we're all working at now. But yeah, talk us
Yeah,
through a
yeah.
little bit of how you kind of get into this.
Yeah, for sure. I have always said when I started the program, so I'm fortunate to have that medical background, right? I've got over 15 years of experience in it. Um, but the truth when it comes to adaptive training and modifying and all of that is it just takes a foundation in fitness, right? And so like I push everyone towards CrossFit functional fitness level 1 first, so at least you understand what functional movement is.
Mm-hmm.
And then our adaptive training, not to plug ATA, but the certification and training that we deliver through the Adaptive Training Academy, which is for everyone, no experience necessary, right? It's coaches, trainers, athletes, interested parties, layers that foundation. And then when it comes to working in our setting, something as specialized as we do, we can train that. I mean, I think we talk about good coaching in the CrossFit world as like one of those key tenets is presence and attitude.
Yep.
And I always say I can teach the fitness, I can teach the neuro, I can teach the adapting and modifying. What I can't teach is how to have that presence and attitude and how to be able to be sensitive and vulnerable to people living with disability,
Mm-hmm.
particularly those going through, there's kind of a split there, like those who have spent their whole life fighting a system that's not designed for them. And then there's those who are coming to it new, who like now say I'm a 50-year-old who's had a stroke and my whole world is different.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
there takes just a certain personality that can like sit in that pain and also help you look ahead to what can be better. So it's kind of a long answer to your question, but I think that the short version is you don't have to have the medical background. You have to have that I can be here and I want to learn. And those are the most important qualities.
Yeah, it's not too different from what we look for in a good, just like
Re-
general CrossFit
Regular
coach, right?
trainer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like a lot of it, like obviously there's going to be similarities, but there's probably a lot of differences with a lot of the people that you work with. And we have like in the knowledge what the coaching development that we do, people come in and they're like, hey, someone will be like, I've got a new adaptive athlete coming in. What kind of guidance can you give me? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you exactly what to do with them because I won't know exactly what their issues are. But every coach or every athlete, adaptive athlete that I've come across, I've sat with them and been like, I've got an idea. Let's try this. What do you think? Are you up for trying it? Let's see how that goes. And then you evaluate and you just kind of like work together to find the solutions. I would assume it's very similar for you with this scenario. Is that correct?
100%. I always tell, I get a lot of messages and consultation essentially from other gyms or other gym owners, and they're like, I have a stroke survivor coming to my gym. What do I do? And my first question is, did you meet them yet? Right?
Yeah.
And you get them through the door, you see what they're capable of, you see where they're struggling, and just like any other level of scaling and modifying, and you just say, how can I meet you there, right? Because adaptive fitness is all about providing access. So the simplest version is like, if you can't squat in free space, we're going to give you something to squat to, right?
Yes.
Like that works for all bodies. And so a lot of it is, yeah, just once I get to know you, how can I figure this out? And we're dealing with, there's a thing they say in brain injury and probably many other communities where if you've met one individual with a brain injury, you've met one individual with a brain injury. Because
That's
no
great.
injuries, no
Yes.
two injuries
Yeah.
are alike,
Yes.
right?
Especially those. Yeah.
Right? And the same is true for a lot of these diagnoses where, someone might reach out and say, I'm paralyzed, I have a spinal cord injury. Okay, well, that could mean that they walk and they have weakness, or that could mean that they're in a wheelchair and all four limbs are affected. And so it's always just a matter of where's this person at? What do I know about modifying or scaling? And then functional fitness, and how can I get you doing things that apply to your real life? And I often say, to your point, Todd, some of the athletes, particularly where the limitations are more unusual, you just say like, I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but I really want to see if we can do this thing to get
Yep.
you this movement. And a lot of that's just trust and rapport building. And if they're willing
Yes.
to work with you on it, then you figure it out together.
Yeah,
That
and I
was a
think that goes.
huge takeaway I had when we talked to Alec was just
Yeah.
like you don't have to have a perfect plan. You just ask questions and
Yep.
they can guide you a bit. And
Yeah.
it takes a big like intimidation factor. It like lowers it a little bit because I
Yeah,
think that as coaches we can get in our head about it, right? And like I've got to
for
do it
sure.
perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I say, you have to, there's a couple things. Like you have to suspend your belief of what is the goal of or what should this movement look like, right? Because that's not super important. So you have to change your thinking on what's the outcome here. The outcome here isn't like a perfect, they pressed and reached overhead. The outcome is that they moved that shoulder in a way that might help their everyday life, as an example. And so you really have to change your belief on that. But it's like I say to folks a lot, particularly neuro, right? Because neuro can be super overwhelming just conceptually. You're like brain injury, this rare disease, right? There are some common things that are about how we move our bodies. There are some movement conditions. And then there's a whole host of diseases, disorders, and conditions that you'll never have heard of, right? There are, as an example, there are over 400 neuromuscular diseases that we know about. And someone will come to you. So I have two athletes, one who's now competing in the adaptive CrossFit games, who has a rare condition called Friedreich's ataxia. Okay. When the first athlete reached out to me with that, I was like, oh, I have no idea what that is. So I know what
But
ataxia is.
you're the neuro expert.
Well, right, but this is how,
What are you
this is how
what are you talking
how
about?
rare it is, right?
Yeah.
And so I look it up and it says it's neurodegenerative. Okay, I know what that
Okay.
means. And I know what ataxia is. And what I tell a lot of trainers to be is that information plus a little help from our friend Dr. Google. We
Yep.
love to consult Dr. Google in the hospital. And then a relationship with that athlete who's been in this body and knows how they move. Like you're going to put all those pieces together.
Oh, that's awesome. Congrats to them too. That's
Hey,
exciting.
thanks. Yeah, and he's probably listening and he'll be psyched if I say that, because his whole plug is like he's like, I want more athletes with Friedreich's ataxia to come and do this. I want more people to know that they can do this. He's the only person with that condition in his division.
Okay.
And there's a big separation between him and the folks who have spinal cord injuries. They actually have more function and capacity
Oh, wow.
than he does because of his condition, because his ataxia, without getting into the weeds of it, ataxia is a motor coordination problem. And so in a lot of ways, speed is the enemy of
Oh,
ataxia.
okay.
And here
Okay.
he is now doing exercise racing.
For time.
So,
Yeah.
right.
Exercise
So,
racing. Yeah.
exactly. So while he's strong, he's limited by his motor movement condition, but it hasn't stopped him from doing it. And so it's the goal is to be out there and be like, everybody come, everybody can do this.
And that's, I mean, that's honestly a great segue into one of the things that we want to talk about is how we can
Sure.
bring this into the gym. And I know one of the things is like, hey, just you start it, the adaptive community talks. Once you start it, then it'll start to happen just like it happened with you. But can you just starting like bare bones kind of foundation, what would be your recommendation just for a gym to start, like step one, and then we can kind of start rolling through some more detailed things?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, I just wrote a post about this after our last seminar this past weekend. You know, I say this and it sounds a little corny, but I started this program with one athlete and a dream, right? And so I often say to people, it only takes one. Beyond that, just start, because it'll never be perfect, right? You can put up all the roadblocks and all the concerns and you can try to perfect it, but the truth of the matter is it'll never be perfect, and it will only get better by doing. And then the other thing I often say is just ask, because you never know who has the information, has a space you can use, will connect you with someone, is willing to help you move through things better. And so the most important thing to starting is just that. And the adaptive community is very much, and if you build it, they will come. Because the truth is there aren't that many programs, facilities, offerings. And so while it can take a little while to get it going, once folks know you're there, they're in, because we don't offer this. You know, the statistic we always share is that 1 in 4 individuals in the United States are living with a disability, right? But when you look around your gym spaces, you don't see 1 in 4.
Right.
So that's an access problem. That's an offering problem. So we just need to let people know it's a possibility.
And what's your best route to do that? Like, what do you recommend? How do we let people know that it's an opportunity and a possibility?
You know, I think I often say to folks that the best way to do it, if you already have a gym or a program or a home, is if you know someone, if you find someone, if you get outreach from someone, you train that person and you train them for free. And you just say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how I can do this and grow this. If you're willing to work with me as we learn and let me market you, I hate to use the word market you, but I think the
Right.
key for a lot of individuals with disabilities is they need to be able to see themselves in the gym. And so being able to show what you do, even if it's just with one person, goes a long way. I mean, I essentially grew my program on social media.
Okay.
Very just organic. Here's a person, this is their story, this is what we're doing in the gym. And it went from 0 to, I have almost 14,000 followers. And that's just by
Wow.
virtue of sharing the who and the what, so that because people then see and they're like, oh, if I can do this, if he can do this, they might be like me. And everybody, even where you don't see the 1 in 4, everybody knows somebody. Everybody
Right.
has someone in their family that was affected by a disability or some sort of new injury. So it's really it's really as simple potentially as just starting with one.
Yeah, so it's not one of these things where we've got to create this whole like, okay, I'm going to start a program and I'm going to have it at this time and I'm going to do outreach to local hospitals, which I guess you could do that.
Yeah,
If you
Some
have
yeah,
time.
access,
absolutely.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
have the
absolutely.
connections to do so.
Yeah, and beyond that, you know, the places you can always look, there's always disability advocacy groups, like no matter where you are, right? There might be like a Down syndrome association, there might be a spinal cord injury recovery group. So there's like advocacy, there's networking groups, and no matter where you are, there are going to be different kinds of training facilities or adaptive programs. It might be as simple as, hey, there's a sled hockey team in my town. I'm going to just drop off this
Wow.
information, right? Or another sort of kids inclusive program, like we have an adaptive ballet program through the Boston Ballet School here. So I just like sent them my info and just said, would you mind sharing this around? And we got 1 or 2 kids who are interested who are doing that. So, you know, looking into orgs like that, or your local VA, any things like Move United or the Challenge Athlete Foundation, organizations that are seeking to get more adaptive sport in any capacity, any connection there is just going to kind of trickle into other adaptive fields.
Yeah, and there's so many, as you're listing all those out, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many
There are.
places and resources. Like once you start thinking, you get your brain rolling a little bit, you start, and then the more you do that, the more people are going to find out that you're interested in it. And like you said, then the more they're going to, that network is going to grow for sure.
Yeah. And
Now,
I'll add to that. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off,
no,
but
no, no,
I'll
go ahead, please.
add to that, one of the things I say a lot about adaptive sport, right? It's great, and a lot of rehabs have adaptive sport programs. So like even Spalding, they have adaptive cycling and adaptive kayaking and whatnot. Now that's great if a stroke survivor turns up and they for this adaptive kayaking program, but generally what happens in these kinds of settings is like a physical therapist and a couple of physical therapy students or aides help like put you in the boat and then they paddle with you. Okay, so that's great, but what's missing between like recovery, independence, and sport is fitness. Right. And so even going to an established, like we have this sled hockey team, hey, you know what would help you be better at sled hockey if we taught you how to do fitness? If we gave you access to better strength training, coordination, balance, agility, all of those things. And so even things that are established, you just say like, we can help you here. I'm in talks with a sled hockey team about doing fitness here. They're like, hey, come along, let me show you adaptive weightlifting. So things like that can help too.
Now you get people in, so that happens. They come in, some of the hockey people come in. What do you need to be prepared for equipment wise? Like you get someone walk in and it's like, what happens now?
Yeah. So obviously the long version of the answer is it depends, or the short version, I guess, is it depends because it's like the type of athlete and the setup. But I often tell folks looking to get started, you don't need much. Best piece of equipment you can have if you're looking for endurance cardio is a ski. Okay. The ski erg is hands down the most accessible piece of cardio equipment that there is because you can stand, you can sit, you can use one arm. You can walk up to it and have support behind you, right? There's no on-off problem here.
Right.
That an adjustable plyo box or stack height box where so you always have an option to sit or stand people or put support behind them, goes a really long way. And weights. Like I tell people who in small programs, I'm like, as much as I dislike them, get yourself an adjustable kettlebell or an adjustable set of dumbbells, right? Because then you have options to work within, but really you can do a whole lot with just those things. Because if you even think about just functional movement, your box is going to allow you to squat.
Yep.
Kettlebell and a box behind in case balance is an issue, going to allow you to hinge. And then you can use bands or even PVC sticks or anything for overhead. And your ski lets you look at pulling. So you're sort of covering a good ground there with very minimal equipment.
That's awesome. I'm just like thinking through all of the different possibilities with just those pieces of equipment. And again, it's just like the low barrier to entry. And I think people get in their heads about like, oh, I want to start this and it has to be this whole big thing. And it just, it doesn't.
Yeah. And I think, we say there are a lot of fancy things, right, that come with adaptive, like the athletes. Like, have you ever seen Logan Aldridge? You guys know who Logan is. Doing his, that CrossFit Games, he won the deadlift competition. He pulled like 500 pounds using the Aldridge arm, like the attachment, right? Yep. Very, very cool. That's like an RX version of deadlifting, right?
An RX plus. You don't we don't need that. Yeah.
And you don't even need a strap or an attachment because you can always teach someone to deadlift with one arm.
Yeah.
Always. Right? You don't have to jump to advanced, which is cool if you have an athlete as they progress. Maybe you're getting a lap mat and straps and attachments and body straps and all kinds of like plus cool stuff. But the truth is, with functional fitness, we just want to teach you how to use your body. So we can do that with very little add-on.
Right. Yeah. And I'm imagining you probably have some athletes too, that they're the ones that lead that charge, right? Like they spearhead it. Like, I want to get it's like, hey, you don't need that. But they're like, no, I want that because I want to be able to do X, Y, Z. And then it's like, great, get it, come in, we'll work with it.
And a lot of those things, like, you guys know who Casey Acree is?
I
He
do
was on
not.
our ATA staff. So ATA staff, he's a congenital below the elbow amputee.
Okay.
And so he was born with it. So he's been training that way his whole life. So he's got a very strong residual limb. I mean, he could snatch several hundred pounds to that residual limb, like strap snatch up overhead, right? So he's been
Incredible.
doing, it's incredible. If you don't follow him, go look at his page.
Yeah, I definitely will. That's insane.
He crushed the open, a couple years ago, crushed the open and like made it to a qualifying level through virtual semifinals, all except for the one thing he couldn't do was ring muscle ups because there isn't a way for it to attach for that. But he
Right.
otherwise is like fit enough with one arm to compete at a very high level. But insane, right? And now I forget where I was going with this because he's so awesome. But there's just like all of that higher level stuff that you can do, but you don't have to do, right? And it also matters, were you born with it or is it new to you?
Yeah.
But my point was, but someone like Casey, the straps that he uses to attach that barbell to the affected arm are tailor-made, right? Like they're actually razor scooter straps that I think someone in his family like sews for him. But
Wow.
that to your point,
Wow.
a lot of adaptations are very unique and not universal. So if somebody wants to be lifting, they're going to want a lifting strap that is made for them. So as they get to that point, then you start to tailor the equipment the same way we all really like our own grips. It's like it's got to be for you and it's got to fit you. So that stuff can readily come at a later time.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll probably come as people progress. They see more advancement and improvement, and then they probably start following more people. They see what's available, and then it's like, I want to do this. So they're going to lead the charge. We won't have to do that. You made mention of starting with like your first athlete one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
What is the transition like that from like that one-on-one environment into group classes? I would assume that you typically recommend starting one-on-one just so you can gain that understanding with each other. Do you recommend as soon as you gain that understanding and you guys both have an idea of what's like possible and what some of the modifications are, then get them into group classes, keep them as one-on-one? What's your recommendation there?
Yeah, the first thing that matters is what they want to do, right? Because I say this particularly because when I started this program, I thought for sure, like, I'm going to onboard these folks and then they're going to join a gym. And even when I was at Invictus, that was my goal. And I started an adaptive program there to sort of say, like, great, I'll onboard them and then they'll join. The vast majority of folks I have encountered over the years, they just prefer their one-on-one training, which totally fine. Like people are just, we know some people like both. But for those who want to get into classes, I think starting with a one-on-one is the best way to go, because the best ways we can empower an adaptive athlete is to give them go-to adaptations and go-to warm-ups, right?
Okay.
And so even if it's someone who's a little more savvy and has a little more fitness background, you probably want to see like what kind of modification might they need, especially if they've not done this before on squat day. Or what will they do if it's a barbell press and they've only got one functioning arm? Like we want to be able to give them the base of like, this is what you'll do if the coach is not prepared. Because not every coach is prepared. It can be overwhelming, right? If you're a coach and somebody in a wheelchair pops into class and you're like, oh my God, I've never done this before.
Right.
So the key to that is like to give the athletes some tools that they can use. For those who are savvy enough, like at Invictus, I'd get a few inquiries and I would just say, like, just come to me for one so we can at least touch base, check in, because what I would hate someone to jump into the same way everyday athletes sometimes are overwhelmed by their first CrossFit class and they're just like, I can't do it. Like, I don't want you to fail. I want to set you up for success before we toss you in. Beyond that, those who need a little bit more time and one-on-one to build those things, I'm a big fan of sort of a co-coach model or a silent coach model, where for someone new to the space, maybe nervous in the space, or maybe the coach isn't prepared, I might go to a class with a seated athlete and I'm kind of coaching them through while the coach is leading class. And then a good progression from there is like, I'm there, but I'm just a silent coach. I'm just there in case you or the trainer needs anything, right? To kind of help with success. And then hopefully then folks can just kind of integrate into classes on their own.
Yeah, there's so many similarities to just onboarding a new coach or even like a new athlete. Like even I just think about athletes I have so many on a daily basis that they've been coming for years and they still are nervous about like asking the coach what they should do to scale, or they have like
Yep.
something going on. They're like, I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to.
Like that's literally what we're there for. That's literally
Yeah.
what we get paid for. It's our
Yeah.
whole
And
job.
this
Yeah.
just is like, especially when you have people coming in for the first time and this may be completely new to them, and just how amplified that could be. So the one-on-one sounds like the way that I would go.
Yeah.
But
And I think like it, it's important to also frame this in the context of individuals with disabilities, whether since birth or new, are faced with a lot of barriers, right?
sure.
A lot of spaces are not made for them. They are not always welcome. It's not always set up for them. And so you can get two versions. One where there's sort of like, I got a little chip on my shoulder because, like, are you really prepared for me? And I belong here. And then there's those
Yep.
who are like, I definitely don't belong here. Help me
Right.
belong here. And so the best preparation is ensuring that all parties have sort of a like, let's figure this out together, right? Like we're in this together. Um, and we know that our class is functional fitness, no matter how we sell it and market it, it's intimidating to the new person. So
Yes.
now layer that with someone who lives with this added vulnerability or sort of just lack of access. And things can be much harder where they shouldn't be. And we can just do a lot for them by preparing with them ahead of time and preparing the coach and being certain to be clear that like, hey, we're here to give you the best hour of your day, right? We're going to give you the best access to all the things, but like, let me help you so you can help me so we can make it better together.
Do you tend to follow like a standard programming that you then implement for all of your athletes, regardless of what their disability is?
I do. I mean, the way I like to introduce it, kind of like I mentioned before, is like I get folks through the door for their first session and we look at cardio, usually ski, but I start them by moving, and then we look at squatting, hinging, pushing, and pulling. And we
Okay.
just see where we're at. And getting down to the floor and back up again, because this is
Mm-hmm.
something sadly not touched upon in rehab. So everybody's doing burpees or get-ups or some version of that with me
Yep.
within their capacity until we get into actual fold down and back up again. But I think this goes back to that readiness for potential functional fitness classes, is like, where are we at in all of kind of our basic movement patterns? What things need more or less modification and adaptation to get you there? And then I sort of just program them through like a constantly varied version of all of that as we go. On my end, with my folks, it also depends where they're at in their recovery trajectory, and then what added modifications they might need based on what they're working through, right? Like, as a basic example, a lot of folks with neurological conditions um, have a little less reserve and can have struggle with things like heat intolerance, and there's an energy conservation model there. So for them, their line of programming might go straight to, we really need to figure out how to build in work and rest. We really need to kind of like put in check systems so you know how hard you can go to still have a little in the tank to like live your day.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, for some of my folks, it's very specific on a recovery goal, right? Like, I have stroke survivor who, when she started with me, she lived in fear of going out in public to a toilet seat that was too low for her to sit down and stand up from in the context of her
Okay.
stroke. And so every session we worked on squatting to a lower and a lower and a lower target until she could get on and off a 12-inch seat hands free. And so I have kind of a base, that's a long answer to your question, but I have a basic sort of programming model of get to everything, but also for those in recovery or with disability, like, what is that thing in your life that we need to make better? And let's work on that.
Yeah, no, that's so fantastic. I love the answers because it gives us just like a much better peek into the process of it all. The example
Yeah.
of the toilet seat is fantastic because I
Yeah.
think like I have more experience working with like our masters or legends, like
Mhm.
older people, and it, again, so many similarities where it's like if they're by themselves and they fall in their house, like we want them to be able to have the strength to push
Correct.
themselves up and get off the ground. And just the similarities there, where we start thinking about like, okay, what are the everyday goals? Or even in the case of your athlete, like, what is this fear that's preventing them from living their life, and how can we help them by what we're doing in the gym? It's pretty
100%.
fantastic.
And I think a good way to then, there's a couple ways that are important to helping people understand the constantly varied and the application of high intensity as well. In which with the falling example, I will say to folks, like, as we're training you in your recovery, if you fall and you can get up one time, awesome. If you're fresh and we teach you and you get up off the ground, that's huge. But what if you're exhausted? What if it's the end of a long day and you've had therapy and you've been to the gym and you fall? Can you still get up? Okay. And that's why we do it on repeat. And that's why we do it sometimes under intensity. And that's why we do it after we made your legs tired doing something else. Right. Because all of that is much more applicable to living your life. And we also know the research is beginning more and more to really show us that the brain learns best under intensity. So doing it on its own in isolation or in like a rehab kind of setting is great. But if we can do it when your heart rate's up and you're tired and you're stressed and all
Yes.
of those things, the brain's going to develop that pattern, and it's going to assure that you can do it later when you're stressed because you fell in a parking lot, right? And you're like, oh my God, everybody's looking at me. I'm kind of panicked and I have to get up. But your
Yep.
brain is then like, we have done this with our heart and our throats.
Yep. There's a little
And so we can
confidence
do
in
it
there
again.
too. Yep. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that we had this pulled up a second ago, but the shout out from Sydney here is pretty good. Go ahead,
Bring that up.
put it up there. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
The one-on-one sessions, going back to her home gym and saying to my coach, look at what I can do now after just a few sessions. That's awesome.
Is that something that you provide, where you'll do one-on-one like virtual sessions with people to help set them up for success? Say they're at a place and maybe they're trying to go to a gym and the coaches or owners there don't have any experience and they're a little nervous.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do. I'll do virtual. I'll also, Sydney's someone who traveled from Maine, which is a couple of hours away. So she belongs to one of the Misfit gyms. So she would go there, do her thing, come down, and we'd work on like, what are some different modifications, adaptations? Like, how can we help you kind of get this to where you want it to be for your body? And then she would take that back to the gym. So we have some folks who come from across the country to do that one-on-one, and virtual is an option. And I always tell coaches in gyms, like, if you have a question, call me. Somebody called me from a gym in Florida yesterday because she was like, I have this new brain injury survivor, and this is where I'm seeing her limitation, and I'm not sure what else to do. And we just talked it through, because I think there's not enough people doing this work. So like, the more people we can help do this work, the better. So we're always here to field those questions too. Alec is very much the same on this.
Yeah, and we'll definitely we'll get your information in the notes so that people know where to reach you for sure. That's really cool.
I think it's such an
Go
interesting.
ahead.
It's such an interesting thing that, like, we've talked about. So much of it is meeting the athlete, asking questions, trying and experimenting with things. But from my experience, it's almost like you've got to be an experienced coach to have the ego that allows you to do that. I know for even myself, when I was a newer coach, I wanted to prove myself and be like, no, I know how to do everything, even when I didn't. Right. And it becomes a lot more like, I had to know what I don't know and be more comfortable and confident in who I was as a coach, to be able to open up and ask the athlete for what they should, what they think they can do, to reach out to somebody like you. So I just want to encourage any of the newer coaches out there, like, don't feel like you have to know it all. And even in the advanced coaches, same.
I was going to say, even the advanced coaches, where it's like, it's okay to not know everything.
Yeah.
There's
and
perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think that's super important, right? And knowing that a lot of times our athletes, they know a little bit more than we do about themselves, right? Maybe not everything, and that's why we're there to push them. But I'll never forget, so one of my closest friends and my business mentor, even though he hates when I call him that, is Larry Thomas, part of the seminar staff as well.
Yeah, Larry
right?
Thomas, business mentor.
He's the best. He hates it when I say that, so we'll just keep saying it.
We'll say it several times then.
But I remember when I first restarted the program in the wake of COVID, and was scrambling and reaching out to gym owners and just kind of like trying to make it happen again, because I was like, oh, my dream's dead in the water, which it clearly wasn't. At one point I said to him, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just making this up as I go. And he said, what do you think the rest of us are doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Join the team. join
We
the
got
Right?
team.
we have to hear that from other people though sometimes, because
Yes.
it's like, well, everybody, everyone's the star of their own movie, right? It's like, I'm
Right.
the
Right.
only one that doesn't
Right.
know what I'm doing. And then you
Right.
realize like, oh no,
Right.
nobody does. Nobody
Right.
does. Yeah.
But like I say to my athletes all the time, when you think about fitness, like where did a lot of the things that we do in the gym come from? Right?
Just
Like somebody,
trying. Yeah.
right, and somebody was like, "Oh, here's a thing and this seems to work really well, and so now I shall call it this and everyone will
Hmm.
do it." Right? And so that
Yeah.
applies to a lot of adaptive movement where you're like, I'm not totally sure if this is going to get at what we want to, but we're going to try it and then we're going to change it and then we're going to modify it and we're like, "Oh, look, we found a version that's awesome, so let's do it."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
getting a little feedback from the athlete too, right? Like,
Definitely.
what did you think? How did that
Yeah,
feel? You know,
definitely.
do you want to try it again? Should we try it in a different way? Yeah. A lot
Mhm.
of just experimentation and trial and error. And one of the biggest takeaways just with this conversation, with the conversation we had with Alec, is again, it's just like, man, you don't need to be an expert and have a tremendous amount of experience in order to get this started. You just need to start it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I suppose you could approach it a couple ways, right? You could just kind of more proactively, like we talked about, go out, reach out to people. If you're like, I want to start a program. I was talking to a coach the other day who has a passion and really has a desire to start a program for Down syndrome children. And it's like, there's action items to take for that, to create that dream, right? To make it a
Yep.
reality. And the other way to look at it is to just be open and ready if someone walks in the door. But that goes back a little bit more to what we talked about with Alec, is making sure that your space is accessible for
Yeah.
everybody, so that if and when you do have someone drop in or come in or contact you about coming in, you don't need hours and hours of experience working with adaptive athletes. You just need to be ready to welcome that person in, and then that
Yep.
can therefore start a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Is there anything, if we talk about the latter of those, what are the top things that stand out to you that you're like, these are the things that even if you don't have any athletes right now, that you should maybe take a look around and implement or look at, just to be prepared for
In
any of
terms of
that to happen?
like your facility and program kinds of things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a good question. I mean, I think accessibility is an easy one, right? That we don't always think about. But you start to see it everywhere. Things like ensuring that the door, if you don't have an accessible door, like a push button door, which most do not, is your door too heavy for someone? Can they fit through the entryway if they're in a wheelchair? Is there a place to sit? Right? This is the big thing for like my stroke survivors when they get through the door to like change their shoes or take off their coat or get something in their bag. They probably need to sit down. So do you have a spot for them near the door that doesn't involve them traversing working out athletes, because that's intimidating in its own right? So I think the first thing is that sort of zoom out on accessible. Like, is this a spot where people would feel comfortable just coming through the door if they have some sort of limitation? Um, but that's the big thing. And then I
Mhm.
think if you do get an inquiry from someone looking to come, I think the best thing you can do is like offer them a quick chat on the phone to see what they might need. I think awareness matters, right? So it's like we have two bathrooms in our facility. One is fully accessible and one is like a poorly done job at accessibility. And so I am sure to tell folks before they come through the door, hey, just so you know, the bathroom that's in the second space is going to be better for you. Like, because I hate for someone to walk in and be like, this gym isn't even like made for
This
me. I
sucks.
Oh,
can't even
yeah.
use this bathroom. You know what I mean? So you have to start to think about stuff like that. But back to what I started to say before was like, just reach out to that person. Hey, like, what do you
And ask
need? Like,
questions,
what?
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like what worries you? Maybe even like what concerns do you have? Is there anything I can do to kind of like make you feel more comfortable before you come through the door?
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Have you noticed anything like change in the community in your gym as like, especially when you're at Invictus Boston, like as you started doing this, is there like a noticeable change in the community as you start seeing more adaptive athletes show up and become part of the gym, part of the community?
I think what's really cool is that what I learned both at Invictus and then when I was at the Phoenix is that No, there's a sensitivity around being told you're inspirational if you're an adaptive athlete, right? So because
Okay.
some people there's a term people say, it's called like inspiration porn, right? Where they're just like, oh my God, everything you do is amazing because you're disabled, right? One of my athletes says like he'll go to Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee and people are like, you're so inspirational. And he's like, I'm not, I just need coffee.
Oh, that's
Right?
such
Like,
a, I mean, but that's such a good thing to remember though, because
right?
people like the intent is good, right? Like people want
Definitely.
to, hey, you're just keep on doing you. You're
Yeah.
doing great. It's
Right.
like, oh my
And,
gosh, I'm just trying to live
right.
my life and be like everybody else. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Hmm.
He's like, I'm just living my life. Like maybe there's things I do that are inspirational, but this is just a coffee run, like this is my everyday. But that being said, one of the things that popped up a lot was people looking at someone with a disability, working out next to someone in a wheelchair and saying, man, like, if you can do it, I can do it too, right?
Hmm.
Like, no, I can't make excuses. And that's a double-edged sword because that can go back to that, like, oh, you're so inspirational. But it's powerful for athletes to look around the room, especially our whiners and complainers in our everyday
Right.
classes, and be like, here I am complaining, and like that guy's got no legs.
Right.
Hmm.
And we used to talk about when I was on the inside on the CrossFit side of the adaptive programming before it was outsourced, that it's cool when your everyday athlete sees Tia Claire Toomey like crush it, right? But what's more meaningful to them? Because they don't look at Tia and think I can be Tia,
I can be
Right.
Tia. Hmm.
right? But you see someone out there in a wheelchair, you see someone out there with a prosthetic, you see someone out there with one arm, and you're like, I can do this too.
Hmm.
Right? It's got a greater functional application. So we've seen it more in the community where people just kind of go, oh, that's cool. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I should try that. And so I think that's been the most powerful piece.
Yeah, I've seen that in our own gym with the
Yeah.
adaptive athletes that we've had, and just that's the coolest thing about CrossFit in general is just
Yeah,
the
definitely.
variety that you see, right? You've got little kids, you've got people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, all of that, and they're all doing it. And it's like, man, as intimidated as you are to come in the door the first time because you think everybody in the gym is Tia Claire Toomey, and then when you look in there and you're like, wait a second,
Yeah. Yeah.
evidently they're not,
Yeah.
even though I'm still
Yeah.
getting smashed by all the ladies in
Right.
class. You know,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is
When
probably
I started the program, I can't tell you how many folks came through the door or reached out or inquired, and they're like, well, I can't do CrossFit because my PT said it's not safe.
Okay.
Or my doctor said it's bad for me, or yeah, we've all heard this before,
yeah,
right? And one thing that has been the most like transformative in the conversations I have and the presentations I give is really paring it down to that functional fitness element and showing what things are, right? Like, yes, a squat, sitting down, standing up, like talking through that burpee is a controlled fall. It's getting up when you fall, and there's ways to do that safely. And I even say, but even like the crazy CrossFit stuff, um, like ring muscle ups. So I have
Hmm.
you guys know who Tom Miazga is? He's also on our staff.
yep,
He's
yep.
the fittest seated athlete in the world. He's won like 8 times or something like that. I have a side by side video of him in one of my presentations of him doing ring muscle ups with his chair, below, and then transferring into his car, right? So he leans forward,
Love that.
he
Yep.
presses up, he pulls in, and then he gets in and out of the chair. And I say, even the most crazy CrossFit stuff has a functional application. So you show me someone doing a ring muscle up, that's not there's not a single transfer or fall in the world that seated individual can't get in and out of if we can
Right.
train them how to pull and dip, press, and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The carryover is crazy. It's
Yeah.
in everyday life as much as you don't think it is. And the
Mhm.
value there, to your point too, of just like, hey, I'm going to bring people in. I'm going to teach them how to squat. I'm going to teach them how to hinge. I'm going to teach them how to
Yeah.
press. I'm going to teach them how to pull. And it's
Hmm.
like, that's the basis of what we do. So give them exposure to that in a consistent basis that's not overly done.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people get concerned and wrapped up around, oh, I don't know if our programming would fit for adaptive athletes, but it's the same thing, right? It's like,
Hmm.
hey, there's different ways to modify. There's
Yep.
resources out there like what you guys provide,
Hmm.
that's going
Yeah.
to educate trainers and gym owners so they can do this thing and do it well and let people fit right
Yeah.
in. So love
Yeah.
it.
And I think my biggest piece of advice to gym owners who are struggling with like how do we make this fit our everyday programming is the key there is that you need to think about function and stimulus over look, right? It does not have to look the same. because we need to avoid overuse, right? So if a seated
Right.
athlete's using their arms all day long, it's okay if you take away something arm that the rest of your class is doing to give them core cardio, something that's different than just that it's got to look the same. It's because it doesn't. It's like we want them working out in that context with that group, but in a way that makes sense for their function and their lives.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. I'm glad you said that. We want them working out still with the group. So it doesn't have to look the same, but then the goal would be same time domain, same location in the gym, like just all the other
Yeah.
things we can do to make it feel like one kind of
Yeah.
inclusive class.
Yeah, right. Because it is like we always say, our training certification is adaptive and inclusive. It's not just adapting, it's including, right? And so setup, location, that matters. And there is not, because of the vast and varied range in adaptive movement, there's not necessarily a one-to-one correlation for movements, right? So like if there's
Right.
burpees in the class, as an example, a seated athlete could do a knee burpee, but they could also do something like a seated slam ball or a U-turn or because it matters what else you have programmed potentially for the able-bodied or standing individual. So it's okay to also check in with that athlete like, hey, I was thinking for the burpees, you could do this, this, or this. Do you have a preference? This is what I'm thinking, right? Like I'm thinking if you do the knee burpees, that might be a little too much pressing because you're also doing overhead press or whatever the case may be, and giving them that also understanding that you're not making an executive decision for, you're not saying do this, you're saying these are the choices and this is why, which goes back to teaching them how to better adapt for themselves when needed.
Yeah, and it's a little different than, of course, it's different than scaling regularly, where
Yeah.
I'm not going to let my athlete, hey, here are some of the options. What do you want to do? Like I'm going to
Hmm.
guide that. I'm going to lead that a little bit more. And so
Hmm.
just having that mindset shift where that's okay to give some options, know why these are the options, and just have a
Yeah.
conversation and make that decision together with your athlete.
Absolutely. And I always come back to, because I'll get a lot of questions for things like movement disorders that, like if
Mhm.
you're certain kind of things that can make you more unsteady and whatnot, because people say, well, what if my athlete with ataxia like really wants to stand and press? What if they don't want to do da 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 da? Da? And I say, like, at the end of the day, the number one thing that they teach us as trainers is that it is our job to keep you safe.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it is okay to say, as the trainer from a safety perspective, with all the obstacles and what's going on in class, I'm going to have you sit and do
Yeah.
this
You're
today.
not going to do that.
But,
Yep.
right, like we can work on it standing another time. But given what we've got going on today, like safety first, because some people feel worried that they're taking something away from an
Yep.
individual with a disability by making that mandate. But I always just tell people, like, my training as a coach is safety first. So that's what we're going to do.
That's no different than just a regular
Yeah.
athlete in a regular class where somebody's like, but they said they wanted to do the RX weight. And I'm like, but you're
Right.
looking at how bad they move and how dangerous that is. It's not their choice. It's your choice.
Exactly.
Right. And it
Exactly.
like it especially is the case when you're working with an adaptive athlete, but we should
Yeah.
take that same approach with everybody. It's always
Yeah.
up to us. It is
Yeah.
not, we don't give options and let the individual choose, because as we know, most of the time they choose wrong. It's either too
Yeah.
heavy
It's
and
true.
devastating or too light
It's
and
true.
not it and all of that stuff. It's our job. So yeah, I
It's
love
true.
hearing
It's
that
true.
being reinforced.
And I think that the explanation matters, right?
Yeah.
Again,
Mhm.
like for some folks who've been told for many years of their lives, like, you can't.
Right.
We don't just want to say, no, you're sitting today. We want to tell them why. Like safety is the issue today, or you're using too much shoulder today, or whatever. And like that again is like bringing them into the process with you so that they're a part of the decision making.
Yeah. And I found a lot of success in being like, I know you could do this, but today
Hmm.
we're not because of this. Right. And
Exactly.
another time we will do this because I know you can. It's not that you can't, it's just that I don't want you to
Right.
for X, Y, and Z reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
It's always a good it's just something good to like cling on to if you're
Hmm.
struggling with that interaction. Is like, my job as a coach is to keep you safe and just like
Hmm.
pull that safe card for sure.
Yeah.
Jenna, tell us, I know you said before, you mentioned a little bit about ATA. You're like, not to
Oh,
plug it, but we want you to plug it. Tell us about Adaptive Training Academy. Tell us, the things that
sure.
you offer coaches to
Yeah.
learn more and be a little more equipped here?
Yeah, for sure. So, Adaptive Training Academy, which was founded by Alex Zirkenbach, who is the reason that I'm here today.
Yep.
We train trainers to work with individuals with disabilities in the gym. We offer 2-day in-person seminars. Our next one is in Boston, which I'm super excited
nice.
about.
Oh,
April
local.
18th. Yeah, April
Yeah.
18th and 19th on my home turf, which is way better than we were in Kansas City this weekend. I loved it, but it took me 2 extra days to get home. So
That
happy to be in.
TSA line or the weather and
all of the above, all of the
all
above.
the travel.
So
Yeah.
yep. So we offer 2-day in-person seminars, and we also have an online option. So there's a sort of a self-paced learning. And we train, we say the course is open to trainers, coaches, athletes, caregivers, anyone, like even sports team coaches or rec therapists. It doesn't really matter your background. Some folks come with no knowledge. They just wanna get a feel for it. It's not a CrossFit thing, so you don't have to be a CrossFit coach or trainer. We use everything is rooted pretty much in functional fitness because that is the most applicable style of training for individuals with disabilities. But it's 2 days where you get lecture-based, but mostly experiential learning. So you get to get your hands on it and try the equipment and learn what it feels like to work out seated with one arm, with one leg. And then you're sort of part of our network where, we're always here for you and to help. And we now have a trainer directory as well. So if you get
cool.
certified, you can put yourself into our AIT trainer directory, and then people can search for you, like search for a trainer in their area, and it'll come up based on city. Yeah, and so come and learn with us. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll put Christian, can we throw the website in there so that people can go there? And then how else can people find you, Jenna?
So my email, Instagram, and website are all the same. They're Fit to Function Recovery at gmail or .com, or that's my Instagram. So you can reach out by any means necessary. I'm always happy to talk people through this, answer questions. Yeah, you can find me any which way. Carrier pigeon will even do.
Well, you are out there. Yeah, I have that link there. I'll throw that in there too. The fittofunctionrecovery.com. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, we definitely appreciate you sitting here with us and sharing all of your journey and how your dream is coming to life, but then also some of these practical ways that we can start to break the barriers down and have a little confidence in our own ability to just do the thing and just get started and help people and hopefully continue to spread it. And it's awesome. So thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. Now, if you're a coach who wants to coach more effectively, impact your members, and advance your career, then the Knowledge Pro is the next step. Inside, you'll get hundreds of coaching videos, weekly calls with level 4 coaches, and direct feedback on your coaching. From homework reviews to full class breakdowns, we do it all. This is the best way to grow as a coach and take your skills to the next level. Now you can join the Knowledge Pro at besthouroftheirday.com/the-knowledge. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Now keep coaching, keep improving, and we'll see you next time.